Check, check. Quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What is going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay, congratulations. You are now a Series 3 registered professional.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
job,
Thank
Coach.
you, sir. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. All the studying, late night cram sessions finally paid off, which was pretty awesome. I was telling Coach Paul before we got on here that when you click submit to submit the test, it kind of sat there and spun for like 30 seconds. Uh, Felt like everything kind of hung in the balance for a little bit, but seeing the result that you passed, just confirmation of your work. So thank you, chat and Pistol Pete. I saw you with the comment up there. Thanks again. Uh, Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to At the Buzzer, our market recap. If this is your first time here, I'm Coach Jay. That is Coach Paul. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If this is our first time meeting, I'm Coach Jay. I've been a Topstep Performance Coach since June of 2023, trading for the past 12 years and in the futures markets for the past 5, and that is Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Coach Paul. I've been with Topstep for a year and a half as a performance coach. I've been involved in the futures industry, trading for 4 decades, and I'm here to share my experiences and knowledge and assist you in becoming a better trader.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach. And I am just going to get this one out of the way. I saw some comments, about TopstepX issues. The team has been aware of the issues kind of all day. So we had two announcements earlier, or two announcements for the day. One, we had some issues last night. So our platform partner confirmed an issue on the TopstepX platform between 5 p.m. and 5:35 p.m. Central Time on 12/8. Negative realized trades during this period will be removed at the end of the trading day. So that's the end of the day today. We recommend that you do not trade on your account until this process has been completed. We will process these changes once the trading session ends and update your trade report. So that was for the issues last night. And then again, this afternoon, there were some platform issues. So I'll read that announcement as well. We are aware that some traders are experiencing issues on TopstepX. I'm one of them. I had a combine that I could not get out of a position. It happens. We are currently working with our platform partner to resolve the issue as quickly as possible. And then at 4:10, we got our platform partner confirmed an issue on the TopstepX platform between 1:19 p.m. and 2 p.m. Central Time on 12/9, which was today. Negative realized trades during this period will be removed at the end of the trading day. Again, we recommend that you do not trade on your account until this process has been completed. We will process these changes once the trading session ends and update your trade report. So that's what I have on that. Coach Paul and I unfortunately don't have any more updates on that. Hopefully, ideally I could I could fix your account for you, but they don't give me those kind of powers. So be patient with the team on resetting those trades if you had losing trades during that time. But like Topstep usually does, when there's a platform issue, they will make it right.
Yes, they will. And top platform issues happen
Yes, they do.
in live accounts too.
Yep. Nelson
So
just put it out there. Another reason why it's nice to trade with Topstep, real brokers, there's no refund. Yeah,
I've asked.
we don't got it.
No.
Right. So yeah, there are platform issues. We are aware of that. The team is working on improving the platform daily, and improving the sustainability of the platform. And hopefully, with these issues that we're having, we only come out better because of it. Like to focus on news sometimes to start the call, but I don't see much as far as news goes. We have two big numbers coming out later in the week. We have PPI and CPI. CPI comes first on Wednesday, and PPI on Thursday. So bigger headline plan numbers out later in the week, and pretty quiet start to the week. Go ahead, Coach.
Yeah, the only other big headline news, geopolitical, is the fall of the Syrian government. But I don't think that's why the Dow was or S&Ps were down almost 40 points. But
Right.
gold had a nice move.
It did. It did for sure. Let's go over to the quote board and look at what moved for the day. There are about 35 different markets that we can trade with Top Step accounts, not just the equities. And we like to focus on the top percentage movers. So to the downside today, we had the Ultra Bonds down 0.9%. Uh, Lean hogs down 0.94%, and micro Bitcoin futures, our biggest percentage mover to the downside, at 5.01%. To the upside, we had heating oil up 2.18%, silver up 2.71%, and nat gas, our biggest percentage mover to the upside, up 3.32%. If you look at that nat gas chart, um, a lot of that percent happened on the gap up overnight. Coach Paul and I were talking about this one. It gapped up and was open when it opened last night. It was up about 5.5, 6%, and pretty much just trended lower, closing that gap, which nat gas tends to do sometimes. Coach, we've seen these Sunday opening gaps on nat gas. It almost looks like a Bitcoin chart.
You'd be lucky you don't have to take a position over the weekend in natural gas.
Yeah,
It just keeps doing that every Sunday. It's like it's kind of vicious. But um, big mover.
big mover
Um,
for sure. And
yep.
presents some opportunities to trade this, right? Sometimes we see a gap and continue, and sometimes we see a gap and fade the gap. Now, it depends on how the market wants to respond to it. We can see it yeah, I believe this is last Sunday. We had a gap down, and we never really filled that gap, kind of halfway to it. So interesting that this happens every Sunday. Like Coach said, good thing we can't hold positions into it because that could get pretty dangerous. Let's round out our big four. We had crude oil up 1.37%, gold up 0.85%. We had the S&Ps down 0.62% and the Nasdaq down 0.86% for our biggest percentage mover out of our big four. All right. Oop. Let's go over to the Nasdaq chart. And I am on a 5 minute. Let's go to a 30 minute to start. Pull up some moving averages here. What's that white line? Uh,
No, it's the first time we settled under it on a 30 for I think a week.
it's been a little while. Been a
Um,
little while.
so finding some balance here. What's interesting is we made our high on the opening and then 3 minute breakout. Um, Never really looked back. I think that's probably a good definition of profit taking um, after this record highs.
Yep. If we look at last night's open, right around here, the overnight session fairly quiet. Uh, Volume never really left that range. Price did tested above these 21,700s, which is a new all-time high, and just faded from that point. Uh,
In
yeah,
almost orderly fashion.
yeah, very orderly, very orderly. It didn't feel like one of those, you know, liquidation days where hey, just sell everything. Where we get a 3% down day. Um, just didn't feel like anyone was interested in buying this market at all. Maybe a little heavy, maybe waiting for the inflation data that's coming out later in the week. If we zoom out, right, where we all we really did was uh, revert
Yeah.
Friday's range, and it's a big range trade, which is pretty nice. But uh, just really no buying in this market at all, and really the equity markets. If we look at the opening range, 3 minute opening range, like you said, Coach, we looked above it. Volume never left that range either. Took a little while to leave to the downside, but it didn't leave to the upside. I know Dakota had a really nice short that he took. He took the trade twice. One thing I really admire about Dakota's trading is the short term memory that he has. Uh, he took the short, lost about 3 grand on it, and immediately took the trade again and made about 100 points. And I think that's the way we need to operate. Maybe not on the same level, right? Maybe losing 3 grand in your account doesn't fit it, but we got to remember, right? That's 1%. And if you watch that trade during fast markets this morning, the risk management was there, right? I've heard Dakota say with the account balance that he has now in that live account, he's not going to risk more than 1% of the account. So it sounds big, but you're playing with bigger numbers. But he immediately jumped back in the trade because it's still valid. And it's something we've talked about before, Coach. If the trade idea is still valid, it's okay to get back into it if you get stopped out, right? It's part of the game. Ideally, we take a trade and want it to go in our favor right away, but that doesn't always happen. Um, so if you can do that quick assessment and next play mode, like we would tell basketball players, just get back in if it presents itself. Uh,
Yeah, no trade is, do you have certainty ever? So
right,
if it fits your plan, you got to take it. Um, One thing as traders we can get caught up is if the last two were losers, I don't want to take this next one, right? And then
right,
what happens? Then it starts going the way you thought it is. Then you jump in late and lose control.
right,
Um, you know, that's why every trade is its own trade. Um, if you've researched your trading plan, you got to execute it. The only one thing you can't do, and you know me, is lose 50% of your account in one day.
right.
So good risk management.
Yeah.
Good job, Dakota.
After that, initial sell off in the morning, markets got kind of consolidated. Nasdaq traded in about 100 point range, which is still pretty nice, right? Decent range to trade, but we can see, after that first, we'll call it 2 hours, uh, pretty consolidated. There was another segment on Topstep TV. Can't remember his name. I can't remember the trader's name, but said something. He's like, I made my trades in the morning. I know I'm on this segment, but I'm not going to take a trade because this is not the time that I trade. Um, and I thought that was a great decision, right? Knowing, even if we're going to look at the markets, knowing high probability and low probability times for your trading setup, that matters a lot. I've heard Deanna say that time is a level, and this time we can see it, right? This is 2 hours almost where the NASDAQ traded in a 40 point range. If you're a range bound trader, maybe this is the exact market conditions that you're looking for to take your trades. And if that's the case, maybe you sit out the first hour and a half of trade. But if you're a trend breakout trader, are there going to be times in the day, midday or around that lunchtime where we get some trending markets? There are. But if we look at a higher percentage of days, they look exactly like this, in my opinion, in the equity market. So just being aware of that can potentially keep you out of some trades that aren't the most favorable to your account and to your P&L. Vince, yes, it was Vince. Thank you, chat. Vince seemed like a really good trader, right? It was numbers 694 on the big board. At one point, was in the top 70. Really good trader and really good awareness of your process, and that's how you get there. Uh, so, anything else on the equity markets, Coach? We talked about the Nasdaq here. We can move to the ES and maybe look at a daily.
Yeah. And then the Dow. Who
All
was it
right.
that made a nice trade in the Dow? Someone in the chat.
If you made a trade in the Dow, let us know. But here we are with the ES on the daily. We talked about this a little bit last week to close the week. Uh, Coach, does this daily candle tell you anything? Are you seeing anything in this daily candle?
It's not engulfing,
Right.
but it did break the lows of the last 2 days.
Yep.
Um, I would say balance. Um, is that topish? Well, you know what? You know when the when the top is in after it's in. So I
Yep.
don't, I don't declare it, but definitely found some balance up here. Can it continue? Yeah, it can. Um, but I'm not big into selling it in the hole. We'll see what tomorrow brings. But you know, this definitely took its time for a rest. Can it continue? Yes, it can. But um, we are running out of 2024.
Yeah, we're running out
Uh,
of days.
so not surprising. Took a small loss in there today, trying to buy it. Um, we'll see again tomorrow. It's in a half hour being under the 20 moving average. I'm probably not going to do much in S&P myself, but every time we get under this, it's usually a time to buy the dip.
Right. We can see on the 30-minute chart, the last time we closed under the 200 moving average on the 30-minute was back on November 21st. Uh, it's a little while ago, right? Almost a full month of trading. Uh, and we know how significant that 200 moving average is on the 30-minute. The 20 did close below it as well, uh, which maybe looks a little bit more like a topping pattern than the Nasdaq does, but I don't want to call the top. So I'm going to trade the markets that present themselves to me. Uh, we got a question from Rakesh. Do you think today's price action was much like a rubber band effect? Uh, yeah, I think so. A little bit, where the markets did feel a little uh, heavy even into the end of Friday. Right. If we look at Friday's price action, we talked about getting extended, especially on the daily chart. If we go back to the Nasdaq, we talked about getting extended above that 20 moving average on the daily. And sometimes when we get that, look at this example here, right? We get that far away from it, and then we get that rubber band effect. Was that today? Somewhat. Where it did, like I said, it did look a little bit heavy at the highs on Friday. We know Friday we had that pretty quick. Where's Friday? Pretty quick move up, and then we kind of chopped around. Uh, so yeah, I'd say so. And then Boomer Brian, do you guys think you could have found a short at 1:48 p.m. Uh, when price rejected regular trading hour VWAP? I was bullish at the time and wasn't looking for shorts, but it seems decent in hindsight. 1:48 p.m. I think you're
Is
talking
that
about.
Central Time?
I think he's talking about Eastern time.
Okay. Yeah, I think so too.
Yep, right here. I mean, yeah, that's a so yes, Brian. I'll say yes. Right. What do you have in your favor here? You have VWAP that left the range to the downside. Uh, we volume is lower, right, at this point of the day. Where if we look at the volume pattern just compared to early in the day and in the middle of the session, it's a little bit lower. So we have this move up, but it's happening on lower volume, and we pushed into a major level, 21,550, and couldn't trade above it. So yeah, I mean, if I was looking at the charts, would I think about a short around this area? Sure. Could I say I'm gonna short at the high of this candle? Probably not. But uh, yeah, I think it's a really good setup to look at if you were um, looking to get short, or like you said, you were in a long. And sometimes it's not about, hey, is this a good short or is this a good long? Is this a good buy or sell? Right? If you're already in a long, is this a good sell here? Right? Should I be thinking about taking profits with this setup? Because before that, you had a pretty nice trade, right? You had a trade that's almost 60 points in your favor. Uh, is this a good opportunity to get out of the market here?
Oh, what's interesting about that? It didn't close above the VWAP bar. I mean, the VWAP. It got above it. It looked like it hit some stops. Interesting. The high was the settle of the first 1 hour bar, or and rejected. So being under the 200 bar moving average. Um, Actually, I covered a short there
Nice.
and had to get back in. But um, it didn't close, and right in the next half an hour it broke. On the S&P, it broke 10 handles. Um, so one of the things, a good catch, I would define that as weak buying.
Yep.
Basically, probably and that's probably classic stop run for shorts that were short in a hole. But yeah, good observation. I know,
Yeah.
but that's what's important to me. It's got to settle. It needs to close above it.
For you to want to get long here.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Uh, and D to Sarah coaches, could you please let me know why the IB high and low are marked off of the two 30-minute candles and not three for time period 8:30 to 9:30? Yeah. So the initial balance is the first hour, right? So if I this is a half hour candle, this is another half hour. Put those two together, that's two, right? That's an hour. If I included the first three, now this is an hour and a half, right? Because although this candle says 10:30, it's marking the time that the candle opens. So you want to use the candle that opens at 9:30, and then the one that opens at 10:30, and that's your first hour for the market. All right. Any? Oh, coach, you mentioned the Dow. I'll pull up the Dow. Looked a little bit different here. A little heavier, maybe. We'll go out to a daily on the Dow. Sometimes you mark levels, and these prices meant
They
something
look.
to someone. Look at this. Oh, it was that gap.
Yeah, Scott Vaughn called that
Yes.
out Friday. Nice job.
Great call, Scott.
Right here on this show.
Yeah, he did. Scott, hopefully you took that trade as well, because that was you saw it. You saw it. Really great call. Um, let's see what we have here on the daily. We have the 20 moving average right around 44,400. Uh, looks like we're potentially going to test somewhere near there. I mean, we're less than 60 points away. Let's go to a shorter time frame here. Let's go to a 30. And under the 200 moving average, coach, on the 30.
Yep. Look, goes, touches it, fails. Definitely some selling in there today. Wow, it looks a little clearer than the other ones.
Yeah, and we said this the other day, right? When we were looking at the four up with the markets, we looked at Nasdaq, ES, the Russell, and the Dow together. And we said the Dow and the Russell were the places that you wanted to sell if you wanted to sell one of these equity markets. And all of them made moves to the downside today. But like you just said, Coach, the Dow looked a lot cleaner with this setup, and I think the Russell, maybe not at the Dow is probably the cleanest one of them all. To the downside, but all these markets presenting opportunities.
Yeah. So, by the way, once again, Scott, great call. Keep up the good work.
All right. So any other markets? Let's go to gold. Let's go to gold. Looking at gold on the daily to start. We've been talking about this. Interesting here. Consolidation that we've been in, maybe somewhat of a bear flag that we're building. It's still kind of holding, right? Where 50% of this move to the downside is still holding right around that 2,700 level, which was the high for the day in gold. Settled above that 20 moving average, kind of stuck in between the 20 and the 50 on the daily. Presented a really nice move to the upside today. But this market, to me, still hasn't chosen a direction yet. Go ahead, Coach.
No, and it's still, I'm glad you brought, it's still in that range, but
Mhm.
a nice trade,
Yep.
VWAP trade, and can it keep that momentum? Well, we don't know, but did present. There we go. So never volume, never. That was interesting. The volume never left that first half an hour
Until the close almost.
until the close. Um, so still grinding. I guess would you call that grinding action?
Yeah.
Um,
This here almost looks like that same example that we just pointed out in the Nasdaq, right? Where is this a potential area to look for a short? Um, think about what we just said here, right? The volume left that range late in the day, uh, and we push into another major level, right? We push into this whole number level. If you watched Vince again on the Trader Vince, the Power Play Vince, uh, he said all of his trading, and we've talked about this on the show before. All of his trading is based around psych levels, right? Which I think is awesome, right? A very nice way to simplify your trading by only looking at whole numbers and how the market responds to it. In this case, we had price moving up towards a major level, volume not as convinced as price. So we get a rejection, right? In order for us to trade through some of these major levels, you're going to need the volume to do it. I think when we were watching this price action in gold, there was about 120 contracts sitting at 2,700, and we traded. Let's see, the volume at 2,700 was 88. So 88 contracts traded at 2,700. At one point, there was 120 offered there. So couldn't take out that full order, which says there's not enough convinced buying to do so, and then it gives us a pretty nice opportunity to the downside as well. So like 20-point move to the downside if you were looking for that setup. Also happened to be in the middle of that big sell off that we had. So go ahead, coach.
That's a balanced market overall.
Yep. Yeah, for sure.
Um, I think it's gonna be interesting. We're, like we said before, we're running out of 2024 here.
Yes, we are.
Um, I think Coach Hoop was telling me this is the biggest buying that the Chinese have done in 3 months. Um,
Hmm,
see if they continue that in a couple weeks, but um, not a place that I'm looking at right now. But there's some opportunity there. It just doesn't fit what I'm looking for.
I got you. Yeah, it's still in that range. Still hasn't chosen a direction yet. So let's go over to crude oil, um, which looks a lot of the same. But crude oil on Friday uh, hit the lows of this range right at that 67. We've been talking about this range for a month now. 67s, anywhere from 67 up to 68 as the lows of this range. And at the highs, we're talking about 70 half to 71. On Friday, we hit the lows of this range. I did take a long in crude oil last night on the open, and my risk was, you know, below the lows of this range. So I want to get long. Uh, I think we've hit the bottom where we've proven to a couple of times before, and I'm okay taking that risk. So I'm going to risk somewhere under 67. Getting long here, I think I got long 67.25 um, for a potential trade to the upside. Now I didn't catch this whole move. I think I had my exit at 68, but a decent trade based on that higher time frame range. Now, crude traded a we'll call it $1.75 range today. Which is decent, right? It was up there as far as our percentage movers go. Wasn't the quickest move in the world, but when we zoom out sometimes, and I feel like even for myself, a lot of times I'm focusing on shorter time frame charts. I'm looking at 3-minute charts and 15-minute charts, but high time frame ranges present some clear trades, in my opinion, right? Where if I had to look at crude, there wasn't a question about whether or not I wanted to short it or buy it. Um, if I was going to short it, I was just going to be wrong because I'm not trading an account that can break these lows. So I have to go with what the pattern says, and the pattern says buy it at these areas, and I'm okay with the risk on that. Um, Anything else on crude, Coach?
No. Um, Real simple. No.
Yep, I got you. Yeah, not doing a whole lot. Rejected at that 200 moving average on the
Yep.
30. And now at this point, I probably won't be looking to trade it because now we're somewhere in the middle of that range, which decreases the probabilities in my mind.
You put a good point there. It decreases the probabilities, and that if you've been saying, well, 67 was 70
Yep,
or 71. We know it's not 80.
you're
We
right.
don't. But nice trade.
Thanks, coach.
Um, and no matter what we talk, it's what your personality and what your trading plan is that you have to execute. So when I see or Coach Jay say I don't see much there, we're talking from our perspective, and you might have a trading plan that loves those kind of markets. Do not let our analysis affect your decision making if that's the way you trade, um, because you have to take the risk. Um, so one of the things too we were reviewing is, at the end of the day, you are making the decision. You need to take the risk, and you need to be comfortable in it. Um, so when I say I have no comment there, don't let that hold you back from trading crude if that's what it works for you.
Right. Question from Nelson here. What are your thoughts and emotions when a trade immediately goes in your favor or against you? How does this affect your initial stop and target? Thanks. Uh, if a trade immediately goes in my favor, I'm like, all right, great. My read was right, and the market is agreeing with me. If the trade immediately goes against me, I'm like, oh man, maybe I have bad trade location, or maybe I'm wrong on this idea. But either way, the stop is defined prior to taking the trade. Uh, so just because the market's going against me immediately, unless I have like a 10 point stop in the Nasdaq and the market immediately goes 8 points, I shouldn't feel too much pressure. Uh, what about you, Coach? When a trade immediately goes in your favor or against you, how do you feel?
About the same.
Yep.
Um, of course, I would rather it went immediately in my favor.
Oh yeah.
I
Yep.
mean, it just takes a load off your mind. But as you get more experience, you picked your exit. You have a target. You framed out your risk well. I'd say don't stare at it. This is, you know, if you're new, I call it, you end up being a cheerleader for your position.
Come on, do it. Come on, do it.
Come on,
You can do
if you find yourself, come on, motherfucker.
it.
Oh, and then it's good, it's bad. What is that? What are you creating there?
Drama.
Anxi- Drama, anxiety, and those are the enemies of trading because you whatever time frame you're in, and you're right and you're confident in your trade plan, don't stare at it. So if you're in a 5 minute, come back every 5 minutes. From my perspective, the worst thing to do is get caught in every little turn and what because that's where you lose confidence. That's where your emotions get jacked. That's where you get shook. It's a great question. So, as you get more experience and you are confident in your trading plan, it should be boring. That's where you really want to get to. Um, so, like I said, if you find yourself as a cheerleader, man, if I think of myself in a cheerleading outfit, it's really not a good thing. So I immediately I immediately stop. So be be aware of that. Because coach, have you ever been caught in that? It's like
Oh yeah.
they know.
100%. Coach Paul, I love you, but chat, let's get a thumbs up for Coach Paul not being in a cheerleader's outfit. If you
Me
haven't
too.
liked it, like it because Coach Paul's not in a cheerleader's outfit. But yeah, Coach, I think we've all been there, right? Where it's you put on a position. Usually, when you're in cheerleader mode, it's you probably have on a position that's too big, and you're just like, come on, this has to be the one, right? Where like you're rolling the dice in Vegas, and right before you throw it, you're trying to hype yourself up. To control die that you have no control over, right? You're just going to throw them at the end of the day. Um, where there's really no plan, and that if you're ever there, you're probably doing something wrong, right? If your trading is that exciting, um, you're probably doing something that you shouldn't be doing. Uh, so yeah, I think we've all been there
Yeah, and it's a great question. So,
Yep,
um, that's something that's the emotion part. I mean, if, you can't get caught in every tick.
for sure. Uh, can you recommend any complete and free resources to learn to trade? Zet, this is one of them. Coach Paul and I go over, our view of the markets every day here, 5 days a week at the same time. But I would recommend the Top Step Discord. Coach Ray and Coach Vince have some classes in there every day. If you take a look at the coaches library, Coach Ray has some classes in there that I think are really important for beginners, where he's talking about some of the basic concepts of trading. Right? How do you identify support and resistance, and what does it mean? How do you trade around that? Where it's something that we all use, but you may not hear us here specifically call out, hey, this is a resistance area, this is a support area. So I would start there. Start with the Top Step Discord, Coaches Library, Coach Ray's classes, and watch the recordings there. And then if you have questions, Coach Ray is always in Discord to answer those.
I ditto on that. Also, some other good information's on the CME website for
Yep,
basic s- contract um, statistics. But yeah, for trading, those are really good resources, especially for beginners. All right.
absolutely. All right, so we went through the big four. Any other markets that we want to talk about, Coach? We have about
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Let's talk about Bitcoin. Can't forget that one. Biggest percentage mover to the downside today. Uh, Down about 5% on the day. I'm throwing this one to you, Coach.
Let's start with the daily.
Hmm.
We got down to the 20 moving average on the daily. We've basically gone sideways here for almost the last week since we hit 100,000 magical number. Um, but a pretty good sell off today and a pretty consistent. So we go back to the half hour. It did make it easy. I lost some money buying it. I bought it early last night. Um, and this is the thing about micro Bitcoin. You don't have to trade, you know, you can afford to take losses here. I
Right.
think uh, it bounced off of that, held. I got long, woke up, got out. I think I lost $125, but avoided losing about $400. But look what I mean. This is just looked at the daily. This is getting sloppy up here.
Yeah.
Um, Kind of lost its magic. We're on both sides of that 200.
Starting to look like
Um,
gold.
Starting to look like gold. Starting to look like we're running out of 2024 right now. I and especially coming in out in front of the numbers coming up on Wednesday and Thursday. So, but you know what I noticed that last half an hour, and this is becoming a thing. Right after equities closed, there's a big move.
Hmm.
Let's see, it was a pretty bit and a spike down there. Um, maybe it's a pattern for liquidation on the close of equities. But how many times we saw that last week with that big gap?
Right.
Um, Feeling heavy. I'll still pick the trades. I still want to buy it, but you can go down without me. I don't have to get short myself. Um, but looking at that daily, it's really running out of steam. Um, We're coming to the end of the year. It's going to get thinner and thinner, in my opinion. Um, and buying just fails now. We had the big buying Friday, and this morning we made the new high look like it was going to go to the moon, and the moon it fell short of the moon. So, um, like you said, it looks like gold. I traded it, lost a little bit of money, but I can see why.
Yeah,
But still in a longer term bull market. Um,
just hanging out for a little bit. Maybe basing before the next rally. Uh,
it's interesting that 20-day moving average, so it's holding there. It'll be to see what happens tomorrow. Because that 20-day moving average is really in a sharp angle. Um,
yeah, it is.
so see if we close under that.
Coach, we got a question here. I know I don't. Maybe this is a Coach Hoop question, but from Fat Citizen, do you guys ever use the commitment of traders reports while making analysis for the day or the week? I don't.
No, I don't. I
Yeah.
don't. Oh, I'll tell you why I could watch it because it's futures related, and being in many years in options, you have to ferret out where the options are and compare that. It just isn't. It's a lot of work, and it just didn't. It never did anything for me.
Mm.
Um, but I know some people it did. Um, so I'm not putting it out as something bad or good.
You just don't use it.
It's a lot of work. I just don't use it.
It's fair. That is fair.
Okay.
Any other markets we want to discuss? Chat, if you guys have any questions. I think I'm out of markets to talk about.
I just saw someone's talking about tulip mania with Bitcoin. It's funny. I'm glad you brought that up. I, I- that this is definitely has that flavor. Um, which brought me to an old, really good book about boom and bust markets. And I'm not saying it's over Bitcoin by any stretch of the imagination, but if you study market history and markets, there's a great book called Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds. You brought that up. I was just this weekend, I went back over it. Um, if you
What
want to
was the name of
study
that book?
markets, Extraordinary Popular Delusions and the Madness of Crowds. It
Okay.
was a very, very popular book when I first started in the 80s. Because it was, who was the author? By Charles Mackay, Mackay.
Yep, I just found it.
Excellent. It's a thick, um, but it goes over tulip craze, um, a few bond crazes. What was the South Pacific bonds? That's another great story. And when you bring that, that's what markets do. I mean, it goes on and on.
Hmm.
Uh, but even in any of those, you don't know the top until it's after it's set. That's why, the other night I was looking, this is a possible island top. It doesn't happen that often.
Right.
So I risked the sell. So if you love reading about market histories, highly recommend that book.
Sounds like one they could rewrite about the meme coin craze that's happening right now. Extraordinary popular delusions. We didn't really talk about it too much here last week, but if you bought the Hawk Tua coin, that was a popular delusion. Um,
Is that already done? Is it already
yeah,
over?
it went like this, up and then down.
I am
Uh,
shocked. Just
yeah,
shocked.
it's crazy, right? How could that happen? Um, I think that's it though, coach. I'm gonna look over my
Yeah.
notes to see if we have anything that I missed. Uh, and we can go from there. Any words before we leave here, coach? Oh, actually, we got a nat gas, and then coach, someone had asked if you traded with Pax and Gov, because they talk about a trader named Paul, and they're trying to identify if that's you, coach.
Were they in the bond pit?
I think if I follow Pax on Twitter, I think he said he was trading the Nasdaq.
Yeah, if he was in the Nasdaq, he was Merc scum. I was board scum. For all of you guys, I was a board of trade guy.
Got you.
But
Uh,
PAX, that does sound familiar, but it could have been a PAX at the board of trade too,
got
which
you.
means peace, by the way, in Latin.
Right. And then there was a question about nat gas. Do you think nat gas is going to continue to the upside? Uh, if I'm looking at nat gas here on the daily, we have the 200 moving average, and I know that these charts are a little bit different because of continuation charts and things like that. But on this chart here, we have this 200 moving average on the daily right above us. We can see the kind of rejection from there. I haven't traded nat gas a whole lot recently, but one thing I have been seeing because I have the chart up when I have all three screens going, there's been a ton of inventory, and I don't know if it's a rollover thing, but there's a ton of inventory being traded. And when I see it, it usually presents a pretty good trade opportunity. Now, last week, and these are some of the biggest orders I've seen in that gas. Last week, there was we talked about it here. There was like a 1200 lot that showed up at the high of the market. Um, and 1200 offered at a specific price, that's a ton of size there. And when you see the market trade up to it, I'm pretty sure it was on December 2nd. I'm pretty sure it was this day here. But 1200 contracts sitting there. There was another one today, somewhere near the lows. It was on the bid side. Someone came in with a pretty big order to buy. I don't know if you're a dom trader, but if you are, take a look at nat gas. um, Someone's moving around some inventory around there and could present an opportunity to lean. Again, anything we talk about here is for educational purposes only, not trading or investment advice. But just something interesting that I've seen, having nat gas up on the side.
Well, one interesting part is the volatility in that gas is pretty cheap, believe it
Hmm.
or not, even with that gap.
Yeah,
That's why they call that the widowmaker. Um, Look on a weekly chart, we are basing, but fundamentally, there's a lot of natural gas. I don't know if last night's action was related to the Syrian news and possible Russian problems. I could make something up. But I don't know. It was interesting that it gapped that higher. Wasn't that it was cool, but it wasn't that bad. So, um, but I'm not bullish yet.
gotcha. Awesome. Thank you for that, coach. I'm going to put a link in the chat to the 5K club. If you're eligible or if you've taken out $5,000 from Topstep, first off, congratulations paying yourself. But if you haven't joined the payout club already, make sure you fill out that link to do so. Uh, so you can get your payout club hat and pin. And remember earlier that the payout club is going to grow. There's going to be tiers. So if you've taken out 5K, 10K, 20K, there's going to be different tiers for that. So just make sure you get yourself on that list. And then if you want to trade on Topstep TV, fill out that form. There are a ton of segments on Topstep TV for traders to join, kind of show their strategy, talk about their trading experience. If you want to join and do that, fill out that form for our casting call. Team will get back to you from there, and hopefully we will see you on Topstep TV. Linus Rain, what's on my watch list for this week? It is going to be the equity markets. And that's about it. I don't really have weekly watch lists because it changes. Uh, to be honest, I have on Quantower, I have, kind of this setup that we've been talking about every day on the Globex Open. I have my watch list just filter out those, and I'll just trade those day to day. Whichever one presents the cleanest opportunity, that's going to be what I watch for this session. But it's always the equities, always the equities, just because I don't know, for some reason it's easy to default to those. Uh, So that will be on my watch list. Coach, anything on yours?
Um, no, nothing big. I
Yep.
think not until Wednesday or Thursday.
Yeah. Same. Yeah. News later in the week should give us some volatility. But that is it. I have nothing else, Coach. If you don't, great session. Good to be back here on a Monday. Hopefully, everybody had a good start to their week. And if you didn't, there's 4 days to make it right. Trade your plan, trade your process, um, manage your risk, most importantly. And to Fat Citizen saying, got to stay awake for At the Buzzer more often, Amsterdam based. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sacrificing some of your sleep to join us and, seeing you ask questions in here. That's what this is about. That's why we're here. So thank you for being here.
Great. All right.
Have a
Bye,
great night,
everybody.
everyone. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Trade well.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.